My dead boyfriend won't stop smiling at me. Posted in Reddit No Sleep by user UserU1. If you like this story, you can check the link in the video description. Be warned and hang onto your seats. This video may contain disturbing content. Viewer discretion is advised. We all mourned his death, even my mom and dad. He was like this perfect son-in-law for them, always attending to their needs and whatnot. On September 5th, 2020, Bruce got hit by a truck while attempting to rescue a baby sparrow that had fallen on the road. He breathed his last breath in my arms while I screamed at him to hold on a little longer. My only wish was to see him smile at me one last time. Little did I know that my wish would come true 1 year after his death. My name is Rachel, and I'm 25. My boyfriend's passing dealt a huge blow to me, and I thought I would never recover from it. It wasn't until I met Andrew, who was able to fill up that hole that had been created in my heart. He helped me through this hard phase, and I ended up marrying him on September 3rd, 2021. Just 2 days before the date that marked 1 year of my old boyfriend's death. That night at around 11 p.m., I was looking at the moon from my bedroom window, sipping a cup of tea. I was thinking about how Andrew had changed my life for the better, and the thought brought a smile to my face. I took another sip and looked at the neighboring houses. Everyone had mostly gone to bed, and only the street lights outside brought any source of light. I set the empty cup on the table and was about to go to bed when I noticed someone standing in the porch of the house, exactly opposite of ours. It was pretty dark outside, and I could only make out an opaque shape. I squinted my eyes to see if I could penetrate the darkness to get a better look at the person, but to no avail. I could tell that whoever it was looking directly at my bedroom window. I was feeling uneasy, so I called out to Andrew, who was busy in the study working on his project. "What is it, dear? Do you need something?" His head popped into the doorway. "Not really. There is someone standing outside the house opposite us, and he is giving me these weird vibes," I said. "It must be our neighbor Frank. He usually forgets where he keeps his door keys when he goes out." "I'm not sure. The guy is facing directly towards our house." "Let me have a look," said Andrew as he made his way to the window. The guy hadn't moved since I last saw him. He was still in the darkness, so making out his face was still difficult. "I'll give Frank a call to see if he is..." Andrew was cut short when a car passed by and its headlights revealed the person who was standing there. My mouth dropped open as I realized who it was. The person standing there had brown hair. He was wearing blue jeans and a black t-shirt. It was Bruce, and he had the biggest grin on his face. I took a step back, trying to process what I had seen. That was definitely Bruce standing there, but how is he alive? Rachel, didn't you say that Bruce got hit by a truck and died afterward?" asked Andrew. His eyes still hadn't left Bruce. I was too stunned to answer. I clearly remembered that I was there when he was buried. I even went to his grave several times after. "I know you won't lie to me about something like this, but that Bruce looks far from dead to me," stated Andrew. His voice wasn't angry. He sounded confused. I had shown Andrew a picture of Bruce once, so that's why he recognized him. I escaped a glance outside the window, and sure enough, Bruce was still standing there. He hadn't moved an inch. Andrew drew the curtains so that we don't have to look at Bruce's smiling face. "I'm calling the cops on him," he said as he dialed in the number. "I think we shouldn't. He's not doing anything." I somehow managed to find my voice. Andrew looked in the direction of the window and sighed. "If he continues this weird act tomorrow, then I'm letting the cops deal with him. For now, let's just get to bed." I nodded in agreement and went to bed with him. Tomorrow morning, Bruce was gone. I was relieved that he was gone. It must have been our imagination or something, because Bruce was dead, and we couldn't have possibly seen him last night. Or so I thought. The day went on normally. Andrew spent the day talking to travel agents and booked us a trip to Hawaii for the 6th of September for our honeymoon. I spent most of the time packing our luggage and completely forgot the events of last night. After dinner, I went to my room to open the window to let in some fresh air. I pushed open the curtains and almost screamed. Bruce was standing next to our fence, directly under a streetlight. He had moved from yesterday's position and was much closer to our house now. Just like yesterday, he had a giant smile on his face. He stood there, never blinking an eye. I shouted and called for Andrew. He came running in, and seeing Bruce from the window, he quickly took out his phone. "That's it, you creep. I'm calling the cops." I stepped away from the window, my heart racing now. A few minutes later, we heard the doorbell. It was the cops. Andrew explained to them about Bruce and them both to where Bruce was standing. I watched all of this from the window. "Officer, I would like you to arrest this creep. He's been stalking us since yesterday," said Andrew, who pointed at Bruce. The police officers looked in the direction of Bruce, having a confused expression on their face. "Look, son, are you trying to pull a prank on us? You do know such things could get you in real trouble," stated one of the policemen. "If not, then I suggest you to stop drinking at this hour. It causes your mind to go bananas, so you imagine stuff," said the other. I stared in horror. What do they mean by that? Don't they see Bruce standing right next to them? Andrew was just as confused as I was. "Officer, the man I'm talking about is right next to you. Arrest him." "Look, son, I already told you that such pranks are no good. If you wanted to make us waste our time, then at least make up something good," warned the policeman. "Let's get moving, Drew. Kids these days," said the other. Both officers went back to their car and drove away. The most frightening part of this entire exchange was that Bruce hadn't moved an inch during it. He kept his eyes towards me, completely disregarding what was going on around him. He had a giant smile on his face throughout. "Look here, if you come to my house again, you'll regret it," warned Andrew. Bruce once again acted he hadn't heard a thing. He kept his gaze fixed on me. Andrew came back inside in complete disbelief. I have no idea what's going on. Why did the officers think I was going crazy when Bruce was right in front of them? Andrew kept on mumbling. I drew the curtains, taking one last look outside. Bruce was standing exactly where he was, smiling. Night went and morning came. Today was the day when Bruce had died, exactly a year ago. Due to the recent events, I was scared to go and visit his grave. Me and Andrew discussed about last night's events, that how the police officers completely ignored Bruce, like he wasn't even there. We came up with no logical explanation for it, so we gave up. We finished packing for our honeymoon after that. That night, I was terrified to even go near the window. We made sure all the windows and doors were locked. Andrew went outside the room to recheck the door locks. I was a bit curious, so I went to the window to get a peek outside. I lifted the curtain and screamed. Bruce was standing directly outside the window, smiling. Andrew came running in and pulled me away from the window. I was shaking terribly at this point. My scream must have been really loud because a few neighbors came over to check in on us. We told them about Bruce and his weird smiling. They went to check that area, and to our utter shock, they too completely ignored Bruce, who was standing in plain sight. It seemed like only me and Andrew were able to see. Once again, Bruce showed no interest in the people around him and kept his gaze at the window. The neighbors went back after a few minutes. They must have thought we were going crazy. That night, we hardly slept. We had no idea if Bruce would try anything since he was directly outside our house. Both of us kept watch. Morning came by slowly. Andrew parted the curtain and Bruce was gone by that time. We had our flight in a few hours, so we made our way to the airport. Both me and Andrew were super sleepy, so we decided to sleep on the plane. We boarded the plane and found our seats. Let's start a new life from this moment onwards. The last few days were weird, and I want to leave that behind, said Andrew. As the saying goes, sometimes the things in our heads are far worse than anything they could put in books or on film. Bolt your doors and lock your windows, but Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to get another Tide of Terror.